I want to talk about an economic issue, the loss of manufacturing jobs. Jobs report just came out. It showed 12,000 jobs lost just in August, 42,000 jobs lost since April. Anyone who's from a place like Michigan understands what it means when we are shedding manufacturing jobs. It is a sign that the economy is slowing. For the first time since 2021, we have more people unemployed across the country than job openings. It's been since COVID, since we've had that. In the meantime, we've had companies closing their doors because of tariffs, right? Much of this is connected to tariffs. Howard Miller in Zeeland in March closed. Detroit Axle is closing a warehouse in Ferndale. So we're starting to see real effects on the ground, no matter what President Trump has been saying. On that score, you probably heard that the president didn't like the numbers that were coming out of the Labor Department. And so he fired the person who's in charge of the Labor Department statistics on job loss. This is the equivalent of someone watching a baseball game, seeing their team losing and just changing the scoreboard to try and make you think that their team is winning. That's what's been going on. It is a very dangerous thing because we all know what happens in the economy is extremely important to every single person, every single Michigander, everyone in the country. The president can try and erase these numbers, but people in Michigan in particular understand what is happening in the economy. We are not new to this. So it's something that we're watching very, very closely.
Hey, Iowa, it's Congressman Zach Nunn. It was great seeing so many of you back in Iowa at the Cy-Hawk game. Go Clones, great victory, great kicker. That being said, we're back in D.C. now and fighting hard for things like affordable housing, moving forward our national defense, and making sure we're taking care of our farmers. Let's jump into this week's Week in Review. This week marks 24 years since the attacks of 9/11, both in New York, Washington, and a simple field in Pennsylvania. On that day, fellow heroes stood in the breach to help save the lives of others. I also met with several combat veterans currently serving in Congress to talk to them about their call to serve, who served in Iraq, Afghanistan, and helped defend freedom the nation over. But we should never forget those heroes who ran into danger, both on 9/11 and every day since. Those first responders right here at home. It's one of the reasons I'm so proud to be leading the HEROES Act, to make sure that our firefighters, our first responders, EMTs who go into danger and are exposed to dangerous chemicals get the benefits that they've earned. In fact, it tackles things like cancer and the threats that come from being a first responder, making sure that them and their beneficiaries receive the full benefits that they've earned. We'll continue to fight for this, as well as our COPS Act and supporting our combat veterans coming back through the Adam Lambert Act. I'm in front of the U.S. Department of Agriculture because I think it's important folks in D.C. know natural disasters can strike anywhere. Whether it's flooding in Iowa or the type of tornadoes we saw in Greenfield, we need to make sure that farmers in rural communities have the ability to rebuild better than they were during a natural disaster event. Our bill, Protecting Farmers from Natural Disaster Act, makes sure that the U.S. Department of Agriculture is able to fully support our communities after a disaster and ensure that we're not going back to outdated models, but building forward for greater resilience, stronger farming communities, and a healthy rural Iowa. Thanks to all the Iowans who helped make this a priority. Together, we're going to work to make sure USDA is accountable and our communities are stronger. This week, we passed the National Defense Authorization Act on a bipartisan basis, and I'm proud that I was a leader in passing the most amendments, and those amendments were all passed with unanimous support. They stood up on issues that were important to Iowans, ones you gave me as recommendations, things that combat veterans truly need. It included a pay increase for our military troops. We also led amendments to be able to protect men and women deployed to U.S. Central Command with air defense systems. I'm proud to say we're saving money by bringing in additional support from the private sector and making sure that the Defense Innovation Unit, who has dual-use technologies so that we can not only have precision munitions, but precision agriculture, can continue to take off. That saves taxpayer dollars, but it also helps our men and women on the front line. There are a number of bills that we've been able to move forward, and this is the direct result of good Iowan input. Together, we're fighting to make peace through strength a reality for America and Iowa innovation directly on the front lines of national defense. Iowa, we had some great legislative wins in Washington this week. I'm proud this weekend I was across the district, including going and speaking with farmers in Earl, business leaders in Ankeny, showing livestock in Mitchellville, and marching in parades across our state, hearing from Iowans just like you. Let's keep up the fight together.
I rise in strong opposition to H.R. 3486. Let's be clear, this bill is not about border security. It is about pouring gasoline on a prison system that is already bloated, broken, and unjust. While American families are begging us to release the Epstein files, to lower grocery prices, to keep doctors' offices open, to confront mass shootings, Republicans have chosen to waste our time and taxpayer dollars on a bill that criminalizes what is already a crime under federal law. This legislation would impose draconian mandatory minimums, even life sentences, for nonviolent acts like returning to reunite with loved ones. That is not justice, that is cruelty. We should be investing in humane immigration policies, not building more cages. Expanding prisons has never made us safer. It rips families apart, disproportionately targeting Black and brown communities, and it deepens cycles of poverty and punishment that we should be dismantling, not expanding. Mandatory minimums don't deter migration. They tie judges' hands, treat every case the same, and devastate communities. We don't need harsher prison sentences. We need pathways and solutions that actually work. H.R. 3486 is punitive, expensive, and unnecessary. It is waste, it is fraud, it is abuse. And I urge my colleagues to stop scapegoating immigrants, stop playing politics with people's lives, and vote no on this cruel and cynical bill.
On Tuesday, FBI Director Kash Patel is coming before the Senate Judiciary Committee. You might remember this confrontation the last time he came before our committee.
I want you to turn around. There are Capitol Police officers behind you. They're guarding us. Take a look at them right now. Turn around.
I'm looking at you. You're talking to me.
No, look at them. I want you to look at them if you can, if you have the courage to look them in the eye, Mr. Patel, and tell them you're proud of what you did. Tell them you're proud that you raised money off of people that assaulted their colleagues, that pepper sprayed them, that beat them with poles. Tell them you're proud of what you did, Mr. Patel. They're right there. They're guarding you today. Tell them how proud you are.
Or you might remember these promises he made when he testified before.
I told you in your office I have no interest, no desire, and will not, if confirmed, go backwards. There will be no politicization at the FBI. There will be no retributive actions taken by any FBI should I be confirmed as the FBI director.
Yeah, that was a lie. Or maybe you remember this podcast about the Epstein files.
Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
So there is a lot for him to answer to when he comes to testify, but I'm interested in what do you want him questioned about? What answers do you want from the FBI director? So please share your thoughts with me.
For more on this, let's bring in Georgia Congressman Buddy Carter. Congressman, what do you think the Russians are up to here? Obviously, they could keep their drones out of other nations' airspace if they wanted to. What are they trying to do?
Well, this is a dangerous escalation, and I hope they realize this, because I don't know what they're trying to do, but what they're trying to do is going to turn out to be bad. It's going to be bad for them. Listen, President Trump is trying to achieve something here that he has never, that the Democrats, that Joe Biden, that John Ossoff, none of the Democrats ever wanted to, and that is peace. President Trump wants peace. But with this kind of dangerous escalation, we're not going to be able to achieve peace. And I believe that Putin understands exactly what he's doing here. I don't think this was a mistake, and I think the president recognizes that as well.
Yeah, the president has called on other NATO nations to stop buying Russian oil. All of NATO is united against Russia, except maybe when it comes to, hydrocarbons. If they need them, they're buying them from the Russians. You think that the president can convince some of those reluctant nations to stop buying Russian oil?
Absolutely, I think he can, and I think he will, because they need to understand that the only thing Putin is doing when he's selling that oil is financing more war, financing more death, more destruction. And that's where we need to cut off that lifeline. If he doesn't have the money to do it, then he's not going to be doing it. And that's what President Trump has been negotiating from a place of strength, and he continues to do that. We want to get peace through strength, and that's what President Trump's trying to do here. We can cut his lifeline off if we cut his money off, because he won't be able to afford to do it.
Yeah, the president is also calling on NATO nations to increase the sanctions on Russia. until they really bite. Is that a possibility? Can the president achieve that?
I do believe he can. Look, there are other things that we can do to these countries that will put pressure on them to follow this. They should understand that this is good for everyone. Yes, it's good for America. It's good for the world if we can achieve peace here. And that's the president's mission. That's something Joe Biden, John Ossoff, the Democrats never wanted anyway. They just wanted to throw money at it. They wanted to send more weapons. That's not what the president's trying to do here. That's why I've nominated him for a Nobel Peace Prize. He deserves it. He is trying to achieve peace here.
Well, if you stop Russian oil production, what happens to oil prices around the world? I mean, we've already seen gas prices sneaking up in this country. Doesn't that affect really everybody who buys gas?
Well, it does, but so does this death and destruction that's going on. And if we don't stop that, then we're going to have inflation everywhere. We can replace that oil. We can replace that oil by producing more oil here in America and better oil and cleaner oil. We can do that. And these countries using that as an excuse that, it's just going to raise the price of gasoline, of oil. That's not a valid excuse. We have got to stop the war over there. That's what President Trump has said his mission to do.
I know that on another topic, you just came from something called Prayer on the Square. There in Georgia. You were one of the speakers remembering and honoring Charlie Kirk. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I'm in deep South Georgia, in Moultrie, Georgia, in Colquitt County. And I will tell you, the people here have gathered to honor the life and the legacy of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was loved by many, especially young people. He taught us how to speak out, the importance of speaking out. You know, the Democrats, the left, they think violence is the only solution here. Violence is not the solution. But political violence has no place in our society. And that's the message that Charlie Kirk brought to us and to so many young people. And that's the way we can honor his life and his legacy, by continuing to speak out. We had so many people who said, I was frightened to speak. I didn't want to do that, but I did it anyway because Charlie Kirk inspired me to do that. He inspired so many young people, so many people in this great country.
Buddy Carter, Republican congressman from Georgia. Congressman, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Hey, it's Congressman Robert Garcia.
And I'm Councilwoman Megan Kirk.
And we are actually at America's best airport.
America's coolest airport, actually.
The Long Beach airport. It's certainly my favorite place to fly. But we've been fighting every day to get the airport more resources. And we just helped get the airport $24 million to redo a lot of this concourse that we're all in, that we all love so much. What can we expect for changes?
Sure. So we've loved this airport since it was finished in 2012, and it is ready for upgrades. The seating, the restrooms. We know that the most important part of our airport is our outdoor space so people can relax before they get on a plane. We're going to add a 2,500 square foot patio at the north end of the concourse so passengers on this side would be able to enjoy that while waiting for flights. So upgrades for safety, for lighting, all of those things that continue to keep this the coolest and most modern airport.
So an already really great concourse and airport is going to continue to get even better. And so we're going to continue to fight for dollars to come to Long Beach and continue to make this airport the best airport in the country. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Let me ask about the World Cup. Big news coming to your district. You represent the AT&T Stadium where the Dallas Cowboys play. And where the 9 World Cup games are going to be. There'll be a lot of international travelers there as well. I presume you plan to attend. How big of a deal do you think this will be for small businesses all around the area?
Well, it's going to be a huge deal, probably bigger than I can imagine right now because I'm still learning about it, still seeing all the opportunities we got. But businesses around there, it's just going to be phenomenal. And, you know, when businesses grow like that, they also create tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 businesses that will come around and be successful. So it's going to be an exciting time to showcase the Metroplex and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And frankly, to a sport that I'm not that familiar with, I'm still used to hitting the ball with a bat. But I'm anxious to learn more about it. But we're going to host it. It's in our district, and we're going to do some great things, have some fun. And what great timing for our Metroplex to be able to get these people to come in and see what we're all about. We got the greatest state in America, and we want people to come in here and realize no personal income tax, a lot of fun. We don't have the National Guard walking the streets, so come on and be a Texan.
Who won the 2020 election for President of the United States?
President Biden was certified as the winner of that election.
Who won the 2020 election?
Senator President Biden was certified the winner of the 2020
tell me who won.
election. Well, Senator President Biden was certified the winner of the 2020
Did he
election.
win the election, or did it just accidentally get certified? Who won the 2020 election for president?
Senator, I previously testified on this matter. President Biden was declared the winner of that election.
What's so hard about just saying that Biden won the 2020 election? What's hard about that?
Senator, as I've said before, that President Biden was certified and sworn in, and he was the president. I don't know how else to say it.
Well, the other way to say it is he won. I can say Trump won. I didn't vote for him, but he won. You know, Al Gore said Bush won when they were having that recount in Florida. And we have had a peaceful transfer of power here in very contested elections. And I'll just be very direct with you about why I think this is of consequence. When Donald Trump has never acknowledged that he lost in 2020. And he invited people to come to the Capitol on January 6th to stop the steal. And after that happened, police officers died. People were injured. It created enormous ongoing bitterness within the country. And that's your boss. You're going to have a tough job, and you're going to have a tough boss because he gets it in his mind he wants to do something, nothing gets in the way. And there's going to come a time when an FBI director or an attorney general has to make a decision about the Constitution and what's being requested, and can that person at that time, when the important values of the Constitution are at stake, say no to a person who is insisting you take an action?
Okay, guys, I'm going to give it to you straight. Let's do a quick breakdown on just how unfair Republicans' big, ugly bill is. For a working family, you are about to pay thousands more in health insurance costs. If you're a student, your education will be less affordable because this bill makes it harder to get student loans or grants, and interest is going to start accumulating immediately. If you're a senior, let's be clear, this bill does not end taxes on Social Security. They are lying to you. The benefits for you in this bill are temporary and they fall way short. And if you earn tips at work, look at the fine print in this bill. Your benefits are capped, not guaranteed, and they are also temporary. Now, by the way, the tax cuts for the wealthiest are permanent, and they get 80% of the benefits in this big, ugly bill. I cannot think of anything more unfair and deceptive. Republicans in Congress and the White House are lying to you and selling out the middle class, all to help billionaires.
In my district, I met a mother of 3 who told me right now, before the cuts actually take place, she says, I water down my kids' milk so that it lasts to the end of the month. She said, I go to school, I go to work, and still at the end of the month, my children go to bed hungry. As someone who grew up, was a young mom, I had WIC, and it's an amazing program. I was in college with my kid, and even with WIC, even working half-time, in college full-time with a baby on my hip, I still had to put food back at the checkout counter. It is expensive being poor. If we want to create a nation of healthy children, we would be expanding these programs instead of cutting them. We would be expanding school lunches instead of cutting them. We would ensure that every low-income family in this nation had what they needed to make sure that their children went to bed with full stomachs. If you've been in a grocery store anytime in the last week, you know You know, while the rent takes half of most poor families' paychecks, while corporations raise prices faster than wages, a mom working full-time as a second-grade teacher, or a mom working retail, or at a reception desk, or a student trying to hold down 2 jobs, trying to feed her children and paying the rent, ended up at the end of the month far from in the black. SNAP is the difference between food and hunger. Cut it, and families will go hungry. We know what comes next. You've mentioned it. We know what comes next when children are hungry. Children face worse health outcomes, and those health outcomes live and linger with them throughout their lives.
At the end of the day, the checks and balances that were supposed to be built into our Constitution so that we could protect our constitutional rights are not working right now. Because when you have a majority party in Congress who refuses to actually hold a president, an authoritarian president, accountable, when you have a Supreme Court that is stacked with corrupt justices who take luxury RVs and trips from donors who come before the Supreme Court, then literally the only check and balance is you. So yes, you are taking a risk today by being here, by walking out with students across DC to say we are going to protect our rights. And what an incredible show of power, people's power it has been this last weekend to see thousands of people on the streets of DC, to see people fighting back against the narrative that we are powerless. We are not powerless. The people have the power. The power doesn't flow from the top down, it flows from the bottom up.
But the public doesn't want more Epstein files, cover-ups, and misdirection. They want answers. And since Trump has made it clear that he will not release these files on his own, even though he has the power to do so, it is up to Congress to act. We must stand for what is right and use every tool we have to force the Justice Department to release any and all files related to Jeffrey Epstein and his associates. And this amendment does just that. It creates an accountability measure to ensure the Trump administration can't just ignore the multiple bipartisan calls for the Epstein files release. Do we really want to have the environment that existed that allowed this horrific incidents over many years of human and sex trafficking of teenage girls to be allowed to occur again? I know I don't. I know as a mom of girls in their 20s, I want to make sure that no one's child is ever put through what Epstein put them through.
Ethnic cleansing through destroying homes, ethnic cleansing through deprivation of food, water, and medicine. And now we have Gaza City. Gaza City is en route to looking like this, rubble. Just as there were 1 million people gathered in Rafah, the regular population plus folks who had fled from elsewhere in Gaza, and now it's rubble. There are 1 million people in Gaza City, and in a few months, it may look like this. What does that mean if we look down the lane? Well, it means 2 million people clustered in tents, without a food distribution system, without a clean water system, without a sanitary system, without a power system, without a communication system, without a roof over their head, with the goal of pushing people out of Gaza. And the United States is engaged in conversations to help find places where people might be shipped to. The United States has to quit being complicit in this ethnic cleansing, has to quit being complicit in this war crime.
Over the past 5 years, the cost for kids to play sports has nearly doubled nationwide.
And the Aspen Institute says the average U.S. family spent more than $1,000 on their child's primary sport. Pix Levy's Katie Corrado tells us one New Jersey congressman is trying to ease that burden.
Talk to any parent of a kid who plays sports and they'll tell you it's not cheap.
It adds up.
Emerson dad Danny Spatucci has 11-year-old twin boys who play everything.
Baseball, soccer, track, karate.
The sign-up fees alone are pricey.
Each season, I'd say about $400 $400, $500.
Factor in equipment and the cost adds up in a hurry.
Bats are very expensive, and these kids want the best ones. And that's like $400 or $500 just for a bat.
New Jersey Congressman Josh Gottheimer trying to ease that burden by introducing the Play Act, new bipartisan legislation to help parents afford the rising costs of rec sports.
The Play Act will allow parents to use the Child Independent Care Tax Credit for expenses related to youth sports and other physical activities, up to $2,000 a year.
The legislation will also increase that tax credit and create a new federal grant program to invest in rec league sports programs.
And parents come up to me and say, I want my kids to play, but I just can't make it work.
Cedar Grove mom Christine Puzio says legislation like that would be a game changer.
As a single mom, it would definitely help me a lot.
Her 10-year-old daughter plays softball.
She's got to get a bat, and then she's got to get the helmet and the bag, and she always wants to match with her teammates.
And her 14-year-old son is on the baseball team. Between rec fees and equipment, she estimates it costs her about $2,000 per season.
Cleats are like $200, $250. You know, and they grow and they grow, and then you got to get the pants every year. Last year he wore white pants, now he has to wear gray pants, and that's $60, $70. You know, so it's a lot.
Reporting in Bergen County, New Jersey, I'm Katie Corrado, Pix 11 News.